What's up, guys? And today in this video I'm gonna be basically dissecting NVIDIA. So essentially the issue is these days there's a lot of debate around NVIDIA's valuation in the market. I bought an NVIDIA leveraged ETF, I think just before the earnings came out, and it's been up a lot since then, but however it's starting to go down again. And obviously leveraged instruments are very risky, and like once they start to decline, you know, for it to recover the decline, it takes a lot. And you know, it's probably best for me to get out of that now and go back into the regular NVIDIA, because yeah, like I said, it should have been a trade, ideally, because obviously, you know, trading is something that could be seen as gambling if you do it based on earnings reports, but depending on when you buy and what you put your stop loss as, you know, it could be strategically smart. But again, I still need to practice that. But you know, let's look at NVIDIA as a long-term play. So if we look at NVIDIA right now, it had a stock split, so things are a bit different now. But things have been adjusted, except for I think the 2027 and 2028 earnings estimates. So that is still that has to be adjusted for. But I think it's just like you just multiply the results by 10 times to get the new PE ratio and also the EPS, to adjust for the 10-for-1 stock split. But anyways, interestingly, NVIDIA are actually kind of hovering as either the biggest or second or third biggest company in the world. They passed Microsoft at one point, but you know, because they're so volatile, they've now gone below it. They've gone below Microsoft, but you know, they were above them at one point. I think Apple might have overtaken them as well. Yeah. So NVIDIA have been volatile recently. Now this is interesting. NVIDIA remains a little known brand despite briefly passing Apple, Microsoft in market cap. Yeah, I mean, NVIDIA are not really like a household name, for being honest. Like, because NVIDIA products aren't really used by people that aren't extremely tech savvy, if we're being honest. Their products are quite expensive. You know, with Microsoft, everybody uses their OS in their computers. Apple, everyone uses an iPhone or has an iPad or uses Apple Music or uses Apple services one way or the other. Amazon, you know, is like the biggest online retailer that are present globally. Google has the biggest search engine. So, of course, these are well-known brands that will be bigger than NVIDIA. NVIDIA, you know, the market they serve isn't really like, you know, it doesn't really get much exposure to like the, I guess, the grandmas of the world, and also just the non-tech kind of demographic. Like if you ask someone in a third world country who NVIDIA are, for example, they might not know, because you know they do usually provide expensive products, and they don't have like, you know, a cheap accessible product that everyone uses. They mostly serve that innovation market in tech. You know, you look at iPhones, those will be used in third world countries. Search engine Google will be used in third world countries. Windows, whether it's the old Windows or the new Windows, will be used in third world country computers. And then, you know, Amazon, I think Amazon again is quite well known in third world countries as well. So, you know, again, That's just how that works. But you don't have to be well known to be successful. NVIDIA could function as kind of a company that connects other companies and helps those companies in the market. Like a lot of people don't know who Taiwan Semiconductor is, but they are very important to the economy. So yeah. But anyway, let's look at NVIDIA, right? So I've talked about NVIDIA before, but we're gonna cover them again after their surge. So their current PE ratio is 74 times. So they're currently trading 74 times. That the current stock price is 74 times more expensive than their earnings. That is a lot. That basically implies that, you know, their growth rates need to be at least surplus of 50% on an annualized basis to make that seem reasonable. And then on top of that, like, you have to look at their forward price to earnings ratio, which obviously implies that they are expected to grow quite rapidly, and the P ratio is expected to contract to 46 times as long as they meet their next earnings report. And you know, NVIDIA, like, historically, I've been kind of following them for a couple of earnings reports now, and they usually beat and raise their estimates. So you know, they have a history of overperforming, so you can rely on NVIDIA. It's just that the problem is, at what point do they start to disappoint in terms of their growth? Now, right now, 74 times seems reasonable because, you know, if you look at the last few growth rates, you know, it's been absolutely ridiculous. 2023 was 853% year-on-year EPS growth. Then it was 1,200%, then 763%, then 600%. But you can see that it's starting to decline, isn't it? And it's now, like, after the next earnings report, it's expected to now go into the double-digit territory. And obviously, it could go to single digits by the first quarter of 2027. So that's a lot of contraction. But you would expect NVIDIA's profitability to start to struggle if the competition starts to catch up. But when that will be, nobody really knows. But right now they dominate pretty much in their sector. But one thing that makes sense is NVIDIA's profitability have improved a lot since 2023. It pretty much 10 bagged, you know, from 2022 to 2023 when it comes to their profit. So that's probably what caused NVIDIA to surge so much over the past, well, pretty much ever since early 2022. Not early 2022, late 2022, you know, because late 2022, in 2022 in general, was a bad period for stocks. NVIDIA basically halved in value, if not more, but then, you know, it started to rally to crazy points where, you know, if you did get NVIDIA during October 2022, it would have been a 10 bagger for you 2 years later. You know, you don't get many opportunities like that in the market, especially with a blue chip stock. But you know, NVIDIA's not going to keep up that momentum forever, and you know, you can see here that the EPS is going to be roughly around $4 per share by 2026 to 2028. And obviously, if you adjust for the stock split, which these haven't been updated for yet, by 2028 the EPS is expected to be 27 times. But also by 2028, the growth between the EPS is only going to be what looks like is that 1%, That's not a lot, but again, it's not many analysts are covering it. So it might be far-fetched to look at the estimates from 2027 to 2028. We usually go up to 2026 as what's reasonable, because a lot of people are covering that. But you can see even by 2026, they're only expecting EPS growth of 16% between 2025 and 2026. So it's not a lot. It's not a lot. And this is supposed to be a high growth industry that, everyone should be tapped into, right? So obviously, when you take that into consideration, I think you have to look at NVIDIA from a near-term and a long-term perspective. I think near-term, they're still expected to grow a lot, so they're good to buy now. However, it becomes questionable. Like, I don't think they're gonna still have insane growth in stock price between 2025 and 2026. Well, if they do, I'd be very surprised. But usually the stock momentum does not stay high for that long, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind. I still think NVIDIA is a must-own stock, but just be wary that, this performance that they've had, like, for example, year to date, up 157%, it's not going to stay forever. It just isn't. I think NVIDIA, like, the best time to buy them would have been, in 2022. And then, you would have had great returns after that. But yeah, figuring out which companies can have growth like that is very, very difficult. NVIDIA were already a giant, so it was less as hard of a prediction. But in this market now, still looking for the next companies that could have those surges, especially not in tech, because obviously, we don't want just tech to be, the driver of innovation. We want other companies to also, or other industries to also thrive. But I think everything's centralized around tech now. So, unless there's some sort of tech innovation involved, not going to be high growth. Investors are not going to be super interested in it. But yeah, anyway, my overall conclusion is I'd say NVIDIA are a must-own stock, but I think I would wait for like a pullback. Probably have to study the charts a bit to see how low they could go down. I could see a correction of sub 100 happening between this quarter and next, potentially, especially if the US economic data doesn't cool down. But yeah, like, do try and get your hands on NVIDIA stock whenever possible.